Okay, let's see. Welcome, everybody. My name is Elinor Silverstein, and I'm here to welcome you to Linda Tellington-Jones's very first all around the world book club. And we're recording this so that we can share this back to you and to everybody. And I just want to give you a little bit of some background of how this kind of came about. So welcome, Linda. Mwah! I love to hang out with Linda. I love to study with Linda. I love to spend time with Linda. And it started with her moments of inspiration. And hold on one sec. Let's get everybody here. Her moments of inspiration. And when we're talking, Linda has this ability to be able to quote a page from a book and quote a whole paragraph at a time and the name and the author, and then go and grab the book and actually read it to us. And then we would sit and have conversation, and the richness that comes from all the authors that she reads from and all of the books that I asked her once, Linda, I think it's time that you make a book club and share this with the world. And so that's what we're doing today. And this book that Linda will just explain to you. So I'm going to put everybody on mute. Or let me have Linda first. You start talking, and then we'll mute everybody, and we'll explain what we're doing and a little bit of the ground rules. So welcome, Linda Tellington-Jones, to your very first, I think, all around the world book club.
Definitely. So I think before we get started, actually, why don't you lay the ground rules? We can say, I say hi to everybody, but then we can get started once they have the ground rules. So because once we get rolling.
That's a great idea.
Can't hear Linda very well.
Yeah, so Linda, you might need to get closer or use a mic or something. That's great. And so everybody, the ground rules are, I'm recording this. I'll be sending this out to you and to anybody who needs it and wants it. Down below is a chat box, and you'll be able to ask questions there. There is a place for raising hands, but I can't find it at this moment, which is fine. And the reason I'm going to mute everybody is sometimes there's noise and feedback, but there will be a point in which Linda will open it, and you can unmute yourself to ask the questions, or you can ask a question in the chat box. Okay, does that sound good? Oh, is that Bobby Joe?
Yeah.
Bobby, welcome.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So welcome. You're in the car. This is awesome. This is really around the world. Okay, so I am going to look to see how to mute everybody. Okay, wait a minute. If I mute everybody, I wonder if that will mute Linda. 1 second. So you know what, everybody? Can you mute yourselves?
Maybe.
No, maybe up here.
But it might mute Linda from us.
No,
I can mute.
it won't. So I've got...
Hi, Sally.
I'll tell you what. Let me try. 1 second. I'm going to try to mute all. And then Linda, unmute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got everybody muted. I figured it out. Eek. Okay. Welcome, Linda.
All right. So I think before we get started on the choice of this particular book club, I want to introduce the concept of how long you and I have known each other, Elinor. Because I think this has something to do with the fact that we're doing this right now. You first came to I think it was a 6-week workshop with 4 horses in a Atascadero area in California. What year? 1981. And you didn't have a horse at the time, so you brought your 18-year-old dog with a heart issue and your snake, who was nervous. And I just lost you off my screen, Ellen.
Are you back?
No, I can see me, but the big screen isn't there. Anyway, blah, blah. So all these years, you started doing the training with me back in 81, and we have been together through the development of the Tellington T-Touch and all of this work and sharing that we've done over the years. So this may come back into it at some point. Your story
Yeah,
really
I got the audio, but I can't find the screen showing
Wait,
them.
hold on. Whoever is talking, I thought I had everybody muted. One sec. There we go. Okay, got it. Sorry, Linda, go ahead.
Okay, so when we decided that we would do this first book club, because you are also doing the study at USC on oxytocin. So we'd had this discussion, I don't know when it all started, you all, and it started with my sister's book, All Wrapped Up, this book, All Wrapped Up for You. There's one for horses and dogs, but this is for humans. And I was reading the big section that Robin Bernhardt wrote on why the wraps work the way they do. And I just got really excited because this is what on page 57 got me started on this particular subject today. And that is that there was a U.S. government national study done by the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, which showed an increase in oxytocin. But the study was designed to explore the benefits of massage and was expected to demonstrate that massage supports the immune system by boosting the body's level of oxytocin, the trust hormone, which is the second time I had seen that description of oxytocin as the trust hormone, because the other place that I found it is in Bruce Lipton's book, The Honeymoon Effect. So my ears really pricked up because before it wasn't called, I hadn't seen it ever referred to as a trust hormone. So I started thinking, really interesting, because as all of you know who do T-Touch and work in our way with animals and people, trust is what happens. So it went on to say that indirectly, it was expected, it was expected to demonstrate that massage supports the immune system by boosting the body's level of oxytocin, the trust hormone, and thereby indirectly reducing the body's secretion of cortisol, the stress hormone. Both groups in this study showed an increase in oxytocin, but the people in the control group who received light touch, like our T-Touch, actually produced more oxytocin and therefore less cortisol than the people in the deep massage group. So I started thinking about that, and I thought, oh, wait, man, I want to know more about oxytocin. And so I went to Amazon and I just put in the word oxytocin, and thank heaven for me, the first book that I came up with was, wait a second, I'm going to show you because I have, that's the screen. Yeah, come on, let me see your title. You want to see the title? I want to see the title. Elinor, don't you have yours? Oh, good. It's bigger than mine. That's better. Okay, so I got this book on oxytocin, the first one, by...
And for anyone who's just using this as an audio, it's by Dr. Kenneth Paul Stoller, Oxytocin, the Hormone of Healing and Hope.
And I started reading this, and it's really, for me, a reason, I believe, some of the reason why our work perhaps works the way it does. So what I decided, I went through and I just chose 5 minutes that I think give an overview of the book, because I know some of you haven't read it and may only have read it once if you did. So I've got my underline on my iPad. This is Dr. Stoller. I have come to discover the profound potential for healing that oxytocin offers, related to many of the great ailments of our time, including mental illness, addictions, sexual dysfunction, cancer, and grief. My knowledge of using oxytocin in the treatment of grief is firsthand. In 2007, my beloved 16-year-old son, Galen, was killed in a train accident, sending me into a chasm of what I came to view as pathological grief, where I was unable to modulate obsessive thoughts about how my son died, what he might have experienced, what if I had been able to be there, and so on. The collection of fear, anxiety, and panic took on a life of its own, as if it were a separate thought stream that I had no control of. It was suffocating and debilitating. Although I had become adept at using oxytocin for treating fear and anxiety in children on the autism spectrum, everybody note, all of us who are, into autism, it took me over 3 weeks after my son passed until I had the idea that it might help me too. Once I finally had the epiphany that I should try oxytocin on myself, I waited until I was under the influence of one of these unpleasant miasmas and then began my experiment. One night, I set my alarm to wake up before the period and dosed myself with oxytocin. The outcome felt nearly miraculous. The severity of obsessive negative thoughts during the acute grieving period was altered within minutes after the application of an oxytocin nasal spray. Whereas before, I had to breathe through the emotionally difficult hour as if I were in a Lamaze class, that survival strategy became unnecessary with the use of oxytocin. It took about 10 minutes to experience the full effect, and with each passing minute, a great sense of emotional equanimity took place. The panic and fear dropped away from me as if I were shedding clothing. For any of you who've been in situations where you've lost a person or an animal, you know what he's feeling. And he goes on to say how it really worked for him. And after just a few weeks, I was able to completely stop using oxytocin. So I'm going to skip to part 2. And the heading is oxytocin and its relationship to fear, anxiety, and trust. One of the key effects of oxytocin is to block fear, anxiety, and panic input into the amygdala. The amygdala is the almond-shaped group of nuclei located deep within the medial temporal lobes of the brain and is part of the limbic system, which modulates emotion, behavior, long-term memory, and olfaction, smell. The amygdala is also the part of the brain that modulates trust. In effect, by blocking fear, panic, and anxiety, there can be trust. And he goes on to think he's not quite so sure that that's true, but researchers have confirmed a strong link between oxytocin and sociability. In other words, when we're emotionally and physically healthy and in balance, we are naturally social. Oxytocin, the next heading in the next part is oxytocin in pain relief and wound healing. Oxytocin has even been shown to play a role in wound healing. How many times have we experienced this with our T-touches? Understandably, when a person gets injured, stress, anxiety, and fear tend to increase. However, when we have adequate oxytocin levels, the cascade of stress hormones, primarily cortisol, is reduced and doesn't interfere with the wound healing process. Part 2 is oxytocin and its impact on the maladies of our time. This subtlety, astounding hormone. Subtly. Oh God, sorry, I can't read that word. This astounding hormone is showing great promise in treating some of our most distressing health issues, including autism, addictions, sexual dysfunction, cancer, and men's health. In addition to its potent applications in addressing stress, anxiety, and extreme grief, there is research indicating its efficacy in treating other mood disorders and mental health issues. Oops, come on, little iPad. And it's interesting that he goes on, for those of you who haven't read the book, he talks about oxytocin and addiction and orgasm, really interesting, and other sexual healings and cancer and men's health. And an important side note, it is of interest that the hormone melatonin, mentioned earlier for interfering with the action of oxytocin, has been found to reduce prostate cancer cell growth. That was just something, I don't know why I threw it in, but might be interesting to somebody listening. In part 3 of the book, oxytocin, sources, and dosage. Where to get oxytocin, and he says any physician can prescribe oxytocin to any pharmacy, and he lists all the places where you can get them. And then he has a whole section on the testing and a message of empowerment, suggesting that we really need to pay attention to this because it's such a way of helping, of empowering ourselves. And at the end note, it's a really interesting part about him because he's very much interested in animals. And he was a founding board member of the Humane Farming Association and science editor for the Animals Voice magazine, which is, of course, really interesting to all of us. And he has offices in Santa Fe, Sacramento, and San Francisco. And he offers help in the back of the book that he's willing to help anybody with their health care people, no matter practitioners anywhere in the country. So that's the book. Elinor and I have both read it a couple of times. I am very excited about it for the reasons of all listed in that book, and also for the reason that we find in all of these cases of grief, of pain reduction, of panic attacks, that we have found that with our T-touches that we can reduce the effects of these, and anxiety, of course, deep anxiety. And of course, for those, I know there are many of you or some of you on here who don't know about T-touch, some of you Feldenkrais people. I have to bring Moshe in here because I had the great honor of I think he's here with us. I had the great honor of being a student in his very first class in San Francisco, where he was able to teach the whole class. And one of the things that Moshe said in our class is, don't just copy what I do, develop your own fingerprints. And of course, that's what I think T-touch has become. And I never would be here if it wasn't for it. And I am so grateful each day. But one of the things that we can do with T-touch, for those of you who are Feldenkrais practitioners, is, as Elinor does, give these magical 1 1/4 circle touches to clients so that they can be helping themselves and their own family between your sessions, your Feldenkrais sessions. So Elinor, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'd like to, maybe we open it to those of you who have read the book and have other comments, things that you're thinking, along as by being interested in this subject.
Okay, and then somebody asked me to put the name of the book back up.
Yes, it's Oxytocin, the Hormone of Healing and Hope. And to put it down just a little so I can read just what's above on the cover here, how oxytocin is quietly revolutionizing the treatment of addictions, autism, sexual dysfunction, cancer, and acute grief, a doctor's moving firsthand account. And for those of you interested in the subject of autism, he has a part in there that I think is really worth, taking a look at, obviously.
Linda, you wanted to give a couple of stories, short, stories about grief, and with this that you share.
What came to my mind when I read about his grief reduction, I thought, whoa, wait a minute, that's really interesting, because many years ago, I was at Fossil Rim Wildlife Center with Christine Jerzakowski, and one of the people who worked there had just adopted a dog like 3 days before, and he was really depressed and not eating. So they asked me, could I do something? And I sat down with him and I started doing quiet tea touches on him. And what came to me was this really strong feeling that he had been dropped off at the shelter by an older man, and that I just got this picture. I have no idea if it's true or not, but his wife had died, and he was going into a senior home where he couldn't take the dog, and I cried when I started thinking about it. It was such a strong picture, and so I talked to the dog about it, and I just started doing tea touches. And I said, it's part of life, and he's going to be fine. And you're here in this new situation, and I didn't work 15 minutes with just gentle raccoon touches on the dog, and talking to him in this way. And when I got up and finished, he went over, started eating, and he was fine. Now, when I read this, I thought, maybe it wasn't the pictures he saw at all. Maybe it was the oxytocin release. And then,
Wow.
maybe, and as someone said recently, I was just talking to someone, and I forget who it was, just said, well, maybe it was both, which is possibly true. But then I started thinking, with Cecilia Wendler at the University of Minnesota Center for Spirituality and Healing, and the first 4-day training we did for credits for nursing. One of the things that they had to do on the end of the third day, they had to write a report on a 30-minute session of tea touch that they had done from what they had learned in those 3 days before. And one of the reports really popped into my mind because one of the participants had been at a funeral the night before and was standing beside someone she didn't know, and the woman was really in distress and crying and very much out of control. And so she just went over and asked her if she could just put her hands on just the side of her shoulder. And she said she did maybe a minute of lying leopard, very gentle, 2-second circles with pauses and steps back, and the woman got it together and stopped crying and was able to be present for the rest of the ceremony. And that really came back to me because it fits with what he talked about, with the release from that deep grief.
Wow.
And then you told me your beautiful story, because we were also talking about, in the last newsletter, I wrote about this Japanese study showing that when you gaze into a dog's eyes, that oxytocin is released. And as Elinor then said, yeah, and when your kitty, must be true with your kitty too, because what you said, Elinor, was yes, but some dogs are uncomfortable with gazing into their eyes. And then I reminded you of like how my Bonnie, when I lived in Carmel, at 5 o'clock, right on her, she must have had a watch I couldn't see, would come and put her paws up on my chair when I was at the computer and look me straight in the eye and not let me get away from her, because it was time to go for our sunset stroll. And Rainey did the same thing. She really gazed into my eyes. Now, I don't know if she was releasing oxytocin, but I went with her.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, then you told me about your situation, what you do with Steve, and it's so beautiful. You've got to tell us this.
Yeah. So my husband, can you see me on the screen?
Perfectly.
Okay. So my husband is a lawyer, and he spends much of his days in court, and it's difficult. He comes home sometimes so stressed out and disappointed and disillusioned, and we meet for lunch every day down the hill, and I can see that he's in such a state of holding his breath and stress. And I go, hold on just a second. And he goes, oh, because he knows what I'm going to do. And I go, put your food down. And we sit across a little table from each other, even just a sandwich and chips. And I said, give me your arms. And he just brings his arms out like this. And I rest my hands on his arms like this. And we hold each other's arms. And we're maybe 10 inches from each other. And we just softly gaze into each other's eyes. And his whole face shifts, and he takes in a breath, and it reminds him he's alive. And then he always leans over the table and gives me a kiss and says, "Thank you so much." It wasn't something he thought to do for himself. And, and it makes all the difference. And then I can embed it a little bit here and a little bit there. And the other night we were watching some TV show, and it did something where the animal was showing these soft eyes and the way that they were communicating. And he looks at me and he says, "That's what we do, right? That's making oxytocin." So that, this is for every day. It can be in a time of grief and anxiety for people who are very, very ill, but it's for everybody.
And it's so interesting because how it relates is by that study that was done with the dogs, that gazing into the eyes of the dogs releases the oxytocin. You were going to share the screen with me. You forgot to split the screen. All we see is you.
Yeah. All you see, no, I think all we see is who's speaking. So it's according it's according to my recording. So you're on and everyone else is just small. I can't split it with the two of us if everybody's on.
Oh, that was the other day. Okay.
That was the other day. So you're the one that's on the whole screen.
Oh.
Yeah.
I only see you. So
because that's your record. Yeah, but I'm recording, so it'll be this one.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the concept of this, and as I said, what excited me was this massage study showing that this light touch released the oxytocin. So we know we can get it with nasal spray. There are actually pills you can get. In the book, he talks about how you get it. Or we know that we can do it with the light 1 1/4 circles. Now, it means that you could also activate it with just light touch, which is what they showed. And the difference with the 1 1/4 circles is that we know we activate both hemispheres of the brain so that we're getting the whole brain connection and beta, alpha, theta, and delta activation besides the oxytocin. So it's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting because he also says in the book, it's not just about the oxytocin. So if you have this and this and you just think the oxytocin spray is going to be the thing, it's not just that, it's all together. It's just that when a person is really low in oxytocin, what can we do? So you're taught when what can we do to add the oxytocin? But I like in the book, he's acknowledging that what we don't know, right? He's just, in this point, he's just talking about oxytocin. So when you're saying about activating both hemispheres and the different waves that we go into, in addition, and oxytocin is a part, and this is a part. And then how do we use that? He uses the spray, but here we can do the touch wherever we go, for ourselves, for an animal, for someone who's in need, for a friend. I would love for you to show me on the back where you talked about on the shoulder. If you can turn, because that way people can really see.
It's just right there.
Okay, so right here.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Because on somebody you don't know, it's not personal. They know you can't, instinctively you can't take a hold of them. They can see you. It's not standing behind them where you can't see. It's part of our 9 elements of T-touch. But the fact is they can see you, they can step away if they want, but it's a safe zone right here for
wonderful
contacting.
Wonderful. And you can think of all the sayings that we talk about, resting on my shoulder, right? The place of comfort. So it's a nice thing. I'm wondering, Linda, if you're okay. Somebody says that she's realizing how much she's been doing this. Can I open that up?
Yeah,
hold on. So Vanessa, you have a story. Vanessa, are you there? Hold on. Let's see. I unmuted you, Vanessa.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
I unmuted myself.
Okay, you can, and if you're on, you can go on video if you want to.
I have no access to do that.
Oh, that's okay. Fantastic. You wanted to say something?
When I was listening to Linda's story, it makes me realize that I have done just that so many times when I've been in vet clinics and people are just overwhelmed with grief. And I just walk up to them, stand at their side, and talk to them and put my hand on their shoulder, just as she just showed. And it's amazing how calming it is. And they'll get control of themselves. And now I know it's the oxytocin. It's just pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And the question is, is it just the oxytocin, or is it the fact that somebody is reaching out from a place of empathy and giving comfort, which I think Dr. Stoller sort of, brings that in, as you said, Elinor, too, but it's very interesting.
I agree. Somebody that connects and says it's going to be okay. But I do believe that the oxytocin has a lot to do with it as well. The touching and just that gentle circle and a quarter and just sliding along, just very, very light. And they catch their breath. They are able to control their crying. It's amazing stuff. He touch is amazing as well.
And I think it invites them into the body. It's like, come back. It's safe to come into this body.
Yes. And it's okay to express yourself and to be upset, but it's good to be back in control.
Oh yeah. I'm wondering, Linda, would you like me to unmute everybody for just a moment to see if anyone, or how about maybe
They should write something, because if you unmute everybody, it's going to take too much time. Just have them put in chat what they, and then you can unmute one person at a time. Or
okay, that's a good idea. Okay. So
Lisa, did you see there's a note from Lisa saying something that she's been using the supplement?
okay.
And by the way, do you remember where he suggests that you don't use it more than 4 times a day?
Right. So let me go
Third section.
to Lisa if she wants to say something. Where is she here? Lisa, where are you?
She's written something. So if you read
Lisa.
your note-
Okay, there. You're unmute. Nope.
Yep. And can you hear me now?
You bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so on Amazon, you can now order oxytocin in a nasal spray. You don't have to have a prescription. And I've been using that, but I also think that it is very, very, very helpful. But, I also like T-Touch better because you do have the connection and the touch in addition to the oxytocin. So I think oxytocin is a component, but I think the social connection and the touch is also extremely important. But if you don't have those, you can just have the oxytocin.
And Lisa, one of the things I was hoping I could get Kate Reardon on, because Kate has found that she can do it when she does T-touches on herself, it reduces the pain dramatically. The thing is, you have to keep doing it. And, but it gives you respite from pain. It gives you hope, of course. And so that's the thing that we wanted to talk about, is that we do know from that study now, do T-touch, and we can, as you said, Lisa, release our own oxytocin. It doesn't have to be someone else doing it. We can do it ourselves. We know that because we know it for pain relief. We know it for panic attacks. We know that we can do the heart hug, which is a circle and a quarter. And stop panic attacks, because we have a number of people who've not been able to go out of their house. We have 2 people in the UK who are now some of our top trainers, and they teach all over the place, and they could not go out of the house for the panic that they were experiencing. And T-Touch has stopped that.
So Ava said something interesting that you're doing for your husband with the T-Touch and Oxytocin. I have you unmuted if you'd like to say something, please.
Yes, actually, he had his surgery on Wednesday, and I did an intention experiment. First of all, I did asked a bunch of people that if they would send happy faces during the time of surgery, and at 8:30 when he went into surgery, I texted everybody and I said, send them now. So that was the first part of the intention experiment. And then before surgery, before they let him away, I announced to the doctors, wait, I have to give them an oxytocin hug, which of course brought smiles to everybody's faces. And since came out of surgery fine, it was an outpatient, and he has a huge surgical wound that the doctors are not so hopeful about healing, but I'm not even listening to that. So I'm doing T-Touch every day on this, more than once a day, and we do lots of oxytocin hugs, and I'm out to prove them all wrong, that you can heal this, and that it just takes a little bit more intention and positive thinking, and you don't have to listen to, well, it's only 50% chance it's going to heal. You have to concentrate on, well, there's 50% chance that it will heal, but that's just not the way people think. So because of Linda and all my T-Touch training and the years of hearing things, I am much more prepared to take this on and know that I'll have a positive result.
I love that. And Ava, are you thinking of Greg Braden's little book, Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer? Do you have that? You have that book,
That
right?
one I haven't read yet, no.
Okay, gotta get it.
Okay.
Really, because it will just help you with the intention. It's the only little book that I actually travel with, the book, that and Uncommon Prayer. Those are the only 2 little books I travel with.
I have Uncommon Prayer. I have that one. But I don't have Greg's book. But I'm still reading the You Are the Placebo, which has been dramatically effective in realizing how we think and why and how we can change it.
Incredible book.
Yes.
Yeah, we were thinking of that because it's so hard to know there are several books I want to do all at once, because I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Hold on, let's see if I can. Okay, hold on. I'm going to see if I can see how to. Okay. And then also, hold on. Mary asks, is there research on the effects of skillful physical presence of someone who is providing compassion / kindness without the physical aspect of touch?
I don't know. I would say Google it. That would be, because of course it will help. What I would say from the little bit that I know is that if you are in a place of heart coherence and truly feeling understanding and compassion and not pity, that it certainly could help from the effects of the mirror neurons of holding that. I mean, of course, but if you add prayer to it, you can be sure it will help. And if you want to know about that, if you don't already, but when you ask that question, you must, is Lynn McTaggart's book, The Intention Experiment. It's just such an important book to give us an overview of so many studies that are so important in this direction.
So do you guys see what I'm talking about when you're talking with Linda about how she can bring in all this wonderful wisdom from all these books?
All these incredible visionaries. And you see, the reason I can is that I have the good fortune to wake up almost every morning around 4. And so, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so ago, I quit reading historical novels, and I can't remember who started me on the path. I don't know. I have read so many incredible books, and I realized I will take this time not to read historical novels, but to learn. And you know, I have this whole list of books that Kim Carneal has listed on my blog, and the years that I read them and the years that they influenced me. And I mean, one of the first ones is Jerry John Paulsky, Love is Letting Go of Fear. It's one of the most simplest, most profound book today, as profound as when it came out, 25 years ago.
No, way longer, because I was a little girl growing up with that book on my mother's kitchen table.
I wish your mom was on here with us. We need your mom on here with us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's such a profound book. And of course, you know, the Course in Miracles, that changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life. The whole, and our work with animals. But let's get back. Let's stay with this. Sorry.
Yes. So I would love, Linda, for you to talk about, because I've brought Linda on when I did a webinar for acid reflux, and her working with the heart hug and showing everyone how to do the heart hug. And very clearly so, the heart hug helped with oxytocin. And my belief partly in here of doing it is that it helped with toning the vagal nerve. And the vagal nerve, when we tone the vagal nerve, it helps us to produce oxytocin. Maybe when we produce oxytocin, it helps to tone the vagal nerve. And then we talk about both halves of the brain, and we talk about different brain waves, and all of these tie in together. But so many people who have just been using the heart hug, it makes such a huge difference. You even showed me how to do it on my large dogs, where you put one hand between the withers and one hand, because I have standard poodles, so they have this big keel. But, you know, so I'm like, I don't know how to do that with them. So now I do. But would you be willing to share this? Because we have about 15 minutes left to our book club, but I think this would be a great piece for people to have to take to use it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I'd like to just give a little history of that, because the first time that for those of you who don't know what it is, I don't know if you can see me. I can't, on my picture, I can't.
Yeah, you're on.
But you can see my hands on my chest?
No, you need to go back. Can you step back from your computer? And now move your screen down just a little. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So the concept of that, what we call the heart hug, is by putting one hand over the other, lightly cupped or lightly folded, depending upon how your chest is, and visualizing on your heart chakra the face of a clock. And on the face of the clock, we put the numbers 6 towards the ground, 9, 12, and 3. The reason we put that on there, the numbers on there, is because whenever we deal with numbers, we're activating our left brain, our logic. And yet when we visualize the face of the clock, we're activating the right brain, which is the side that gives us our potential for feeling, and our potential for compassion, our potential for caring what happens to everyone in this world. So I have my face on my clock. Now I just lightly start toward the bottom at 6 o'clock, and I very gently, very softly move the skin around 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9. And just take a deep breath. And think of somebody or something, someplace in nature that you really love, and just send love. Take another deep breath. Just let your hands relax. And now let's try the other direction, because for some of you, the other direction will be more appropriate for this moment. So you start over at 6, 3, 12, 9, 6, 3. And if you don't like that, stop. Let's do in the direction one more that you like the most. And just take the direction you like the most, and very softly make these small movements. And put a smile on your face, because when you smile, you activate the feel-good hormone, the serotonin, and the oxytocin in the latest place I found Googling. And just sit quietly a moment. And send, actually, let's put our hands back on our heart chakra again, and this time with our circle and a quarter. That's the pause point. Smile and just send deep, deep appreciation and love to every cell in your body. Every cell in your body. No matter what's going on with you. Smile to your own amazing universe that we call our bodies. Oh, I love it so much. And remember, the divine connection and presence in every cell in your body. So we come back. I come back to my screen, and I want to tell you a little story about that. Where I first noticed it was back in the 80s when I was doing a T-Touch workshop in Santa Fe, and actually Mia Siegel and I were doing it together. She was teaching awareness through movement, and I was teaching Feldenkrais, T-Touch. And at the lunch break, one of the participants came to me and privately said that she's a therapist, she's a hypnotherapist, and that she had had these debilitating, awful feeling of fear that no matter what therapy she'd done over the years, it just couldn't leave her. And did I have any thoughts? And my God, as I'm saying this, I'm just getting chicken skin, as they say in Hawaii, because, So I said to her, I don't know if it'll help, but just go off by yourself and at the lunch break, put your hand, on your chest here and just do this circle and a quarter. I hadn't done it for this point of fear before. And she went away and she came back after lunch with tears in her eyes and said that she had done it. And for the first time, she felt a sense of clarity and relief and didn't have this oppressive fear on her. And that, when we think in terms of what we're discussing right now, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? What is really happening? And Elinor, I would like you to talk about the study you're doing at the University of Southern California. And I don't know if Karen Freiling in Northern Germany was able to get on tonight. She may be teaching tonight, but she is doing a study at the University of Heidelberg on preemies, doing T-Touch on preemies and the release of oxytocin from the T-Touch. So this is really exciting that you're also, I told her about your study at USC. If you can just tell us a little about that, that would be really great.
Yeah, it actually started with a young man who had severe debilitating back pain. He's probably 6'6", 6'7", and very athletic, and he's working on his doctorate at USC. And in the bioevolutionary lab area there, which I didn't know. And in one session, helped him. And I blend my Feldenkrais with T-Touch. So it helps me with how I'm touching and connecting and making movement to come through. And he came back the second time and said, I'm pain-free. And he was debilitating because he's an assistant professor and he couldn't stand at the podium to teach. And he's very, very athletic. I mean, he hikes a lot and bikes a lot and everything. And so one day, I'm driving him back to the train station and I asked him, what are you doing your dissertation on? And he said, well, we're measuring oxytocin levels in mothering chimps. And I went, what? I was so excited. So I said, well, that's interesting because this is a dream of mine to measure oxytocin levels in people after just a simple Feldenkrais awareness through movement lesson. And then I wanted to take it into measuring with the T-Touch just circle touches, not even a specific kind of touch, but just the general of Linda's idea of when we're doing the circle touches. So it shows the whole thing of the umbrella of T-touch, and it shows self-induced movement with awareness and self-touch with awareness. And he's like, wow, I could introduce you to my professor. I think she'd be very interested in this. And the next day, he sent out an email. I connected with his professor. She's an amazing woman. And in her office, she has big signs that go across the whole top of the office that just say, move, move, move. And so she was very connected with this. And so she's been putting together a whole way that we can work with doing the study, but we're doing it with measuring saliva. And it's very difficult to do that because the way in the United States, you're not allowed to do anything invasive. So we can't measure blood levels. So it has to be done through saliva, but we have to titrate it down to make it concentrated enough. So we're still working on the techniques. She connected with one professor in Germany, and I don't know who it was, to see how he did it. But she's still getting the students to work on getting success. So I've had a couple students come here. I work on them. We spit before, we spit after, and we put it in a food dehydrator. So, and then an anophylizer. Yeah, we're trying all kinds of ways. So, it's like the kitchen is open for ideas. And so she's still trying to put it together because she's a great believer in that when we can show things this easy, this simple, the world becomes a better place. Because my hope for this is that this is not just for everybody, but what a difference that this kind of work will help people in war-torn countries. Because they live in such a state of anxiety. And what they can do for themselves, for each other, for their children, so that they grow the next generation to have, because when they can do this and produce oxytocin, tone the vagal nerve, it allows us to be able to think and not react.
And Elinor, brings up something that I didn't finish saying actually with the heart hug, and that is the fact that we know now that from the study that we did with the M-Wave from the Heart Math Institute, that doing the circle and a quarter anywhere, actually, you can do it on your arm, on your ear, on your chest, it doesn't matter where, we go from a place of heart coherence. We go from heart to heart coherence. And that when we are in a state of heart coherence, that is the very best place for our immune system. And when you listen to Bruce Lipton and the fact that every one of, he gives a number 50 trillion cells in our body, has its own immune system. Whatever we can do to boost the health and the balance in our immune systems, however that is, and we do this by coming into heart coherence. It's so important. And I just have to put this out on this book. If you do not know about Heart Math Institute, Google it, get online, find all the wonderful works, the wonderful books they have. There's I think it's some of the most important work on the planet. It's HEART, capital MATH, run together. .org and .com. And we know we started doing this like more than 10 years ago. Karen Freiling first started me doing this with measuring what the effects of the circular 1 1/4 touches to activate the heart coherence. So it brings us from a state, that's what we already know, that when we're in a state of panic or fear or distress, that we can do this 1 1/4 circles and come from control from the emotional centers of the brain, the primitive parts of the brain, to our forebrain. So we have a choice of thinking. And I see Sally here. And Sally, do you have something to say? I would love to have everybody meet you and have you on with us.
I had a couple of comments from something you said earlier, and I can't figure out how to type, so I raised my hand. One is when you were talking about dogs looking into our eyes and the release of oxytocin, I was reminded of the book, The Genius of Dogs, where he talks about when dogs look deeply at you, that's when they're hugging you. And of course, when you're hugged, you're releasing oxytocin. So I completely agree with that.
Gorgeous.
And Viana, you wanted to say something, right?
Yes. I thought it was interesting that the heart hug is done right over the thymus gland. And over the years, you know, I always tell my clients, thump your thymus to stimulate your immune system. And so it just brought back that memory of thumping your thymus and hugging your thymus.
Yeah, it's up here. I mean, it's, you know, right above your breasts, right here.
Well,
And
I guess the thymus is more in between, but it's still in the general area.
well, and there's all kinds of stuff that we're affecting here, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, it's amazing that all of it. And I think the fact actually why we started calling it the heart hug is I taught this to orphans in Soweto in South Africa, where we did a little film from the film school at the University of Johannesburg, and that when you do this, it is like hugging yourself. You know, it's such a feeling of containment and contentment. That if a person is in a place of panic or deep fear, it's just such a relief. Interesting, we got the same release from fear and stress by doing T-touches on the ear. So, you know, it probably can be anywhere, but there's nothing like this nice feeling of hugging yourself.
That is so true. And while I have the floor, could you give me the name of the prayer book that you mentioned earlier again?
It's Secrets of the Lost Mode, M-O-D-E, of Prayer by Greg Braden.
B-R-A-D-E-N.
Braden, B-R-A-D-E-N.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful little book. And the first book of his that I read was The Divine Matrix, which is like, life-changing. I loved it. I mean, I've been on this path for 40 years, so how could it be life-changing? Well, it is. When we begin to realize that all of this is the quantum field, and that anything we need to know, we just have to open to and ask for. And that this is Greg Braden, every thought, it's from his book, I'll think of it in a second. It's the simultaneous healing of belief. Spontaneous healing of belief. Thank you. This thought that every feeling, every emotion, every thought, and every belief that we have affects this whole quantum field. And when I read that, I thought, wow, that means that every one of us does make a difference, because we have a choice of what we choose to feel, think, believe. You know? And it's really, to me, it gives another purpose to life and to living, that I, sitting here alone, can make a difference on this whole planet. Every one of us, every single one of us. And Elinor, I love you because your encouragement of us doing this together, it's know that we are, you know, there are, I think, 21 of participants here, but just our joining together in this possibility with Dr. Stoller of empowering ourselves with our own possibility for self-help, and for me, this deep appreciation for all of our friends and family that we have. Elinor, thank you.
Linda,
thank you all for being with us.
Thank you. And this is what we wanted to share with you, because this is what it's like when you get to hang around with Linda. It is awesome and inspiring, and your level of sharing, I think, helps us to change the world. So can you imagine what the next book might be? I'm going to put the whole group on, and let's see if I can Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I can unmute all, make a big party mess here. And how would you all like to continue this book club if we come up with another?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, the book, Eleanor, that I recommend, and it's really hard because I've got about 10, but I would really like to, I'd like us to read this beautiful little book called Ho'oponopono by Dupre, by, oh my God. What's his name? You have to look it up.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up right here.
Here's my iPad. Ulrich, it's like Ulrich Dupre. Dupree.
Hold on.
Where are you?
Oh.
H-O. You can find it there. Ho'oponopono. Come on. Yeah.
Here we go. Hold on.
Could you spell it?
H-O apostrophe O-P-O-N-O P-O-N-O. Ho'oponopono. And I'm trying to, my iPad is, come on, be nice to me here. Come on. Oh, this is really strange.
I have the book right here. What do you need?
Oh, good. Well, hold it up. And read,
Hold it up. I lost my video.
Oh, read the subtitle, because I love the subtitle.
Who's trying to share it, Sally or Viana?
Valley.
So where did your video go?
Well,
I
you have to unmute us on the video because somehow you have put us on mute on video.
Really? No, I unmute all.
Oh, well, my message comes up and says the host has muted your video, so I can't get it.
Unmuted?
I muted your video? No, I see you. Is that you right there?
Okay, I'll try it again.
Anyway, let's get to the subtitle, because
It's the Hawaiian forgiveness ritual as the key to your life's fulfillment.
And it's a really beautiful book. I have read it many times, and a couple of months ago, I chose for 3 weeks, I read the first 3 chapters every night. And it's made a huge difference in the lives to a lot of people I have shared that book with.
So how do you spell the first name of the author?
U-L-R-I-C-H, Ulrich.
Dupre. Dupre.
Dupre is D-U-P-R with a E with a little like umlaut over it and then another E.
Okay, thank you.
And what I'd love to do with everyone is have you somehow, Eleanor, if we could maybe share somewhere, if when people find it, because every time I share this in almost every workshop that I teach, and always somebody comes back the next day to the workshop and says, I used this in this or that situation and it just changed. So it's a beautiful.
I'll share it. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can do it. But I'll share it with the whole group. I'll send the email out.
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to. Okay, so somebody has a lot of noise, so we're going to end at 11:05 Pacific Standard Time. And Linda, what time is it where you are in Germany?
It's well, it must be just after 8 p.m.
So we are all around the world.
I wish you could see where I am. I'm in the office of my dear friend Gabrielle Boiselle, and it's so inspiring here and so beautiful. I don't know how much you can see of this. So many books and does all these beautiful big calendars and does workshops in photography. So this is where I am working.
Wonderful. Okay, everybody. Linda, thank you for sharing your space. Thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you.
Your knowledge, your energy. And goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda and Eleanor.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I'll put the link up for the video for all of you to get, okay? And share it with other people.
Thank you, Eleanor.
And we'll let you know, Linda, right? We'll let you know when the next one and when we pick up for this book.
Eleanor? We'll do the next one with when I'm with Pam in Maryland.
Okay, and when is that?
The 4th of November. Pam, is that good for you?
Yeah, fine.
Linda?
Yeah.
It's Sally. I just want to tell you that when I went to see this Lipizan exposition last night, they were wearing roller bits.
Really?
Ooh.
Yes, they were performing in roller bits, Andalusians and Lipizans, with this man, Rene Grasse, who does a sort of a touring Lipizan review.
Did you talk to him?
Well, it's
Yes, but I talked to his daughter, and she didn't know you, and she didn't know it was a roller bit because they're Australian, and they're very common there.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for that conversation for another. Keep your oxytocin levels up. Remember your hug wherever you go. Give yourself and people you know the softness in the touch. It makes a difference in our lives.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.